Friends, I welcome you to my channel. Before listening to this story, I will ask you to like and subscribe. It is not difficult for you, but it is pleasant for me. And we're starting. The decisive factor was the smell of cigarette smoke. I quit smoking at the age of 11. I managed to smoke 10 packs of mom's cigarettes and didn't feel very well. My brother laughed at me, saying that I was doing everything wrong. Later that day, I talked to my beloved uncle, a sailor and a smoker. "If you smoke, Tosh, you'll never have any money. I'd rather never start." He always called me Tosh. I think it was a pet name left over from his time in the Navy. I loved my uncle, and a short conversation with him made me wonder why I should smoke at all. The reason was obvious. I wanted to be like big boys, like my brother. I wanted to be accepted as one of my own. It didn't take long to realize that they wouldn't actually be impressed. I won't be accepted because I'm too young. Moreover, I realized that I didn't like the people I was trying to impress at all. So that's it, no more cigarettes. My resolve was slightly shaken when I started chasing girls. I wanted to impress them with how macho I am. Hanging around the streets with a cigarette in my mouth seemed so cool. I hesitated until the moment when the coolest girl in school, Rebecca Davis, let me kiss her. Rebecca was a smoker and so cool. She was hanging out with guys my brother's age and she let me kiss her. I was over the moon with happiness until I got a taste. Bah, if smokers taste like that, then I don't want any of this. I left Rebecca, who looked very offended, and continued to live as before. Not cool and not smoking. I've always been considered a bit uncommunicative. Ever since I was bullied on the playground, I've tried not to show emotion. Hit them hard and hit them where it hurts, my uncle used to say. But first of all, never let anyone see that you've been hurt. That's exactly what they want, and if they don't get it from you, they'll move on to someone else. It worked against bullies, but left a side effect that was a little less desirable. I was left with an inability to show emotion. As the years passed, I found myself a nice, non-smoking girl. Her name was Barbara, and we became friends right away. 18 months later, I proposed to her, and she agreed. That was 23 years ago. A lot of water has flowed under the bridge. We have 2 adult children, Henry, who has just graduated from university, and Zoe, whose first year of study is coming to an end. With Barb, I could be myself. He could have loosened his guard a little. When my brother died of lung cancer, he was only 42 years old, and it hit me harder than I expected. For several weeks after his death, when I was alone, I suddenly found myself bursting into tears. Barb always found me and hugged me until I stopped crying. Not a day went by that I didn't say I loved her. Her friends asked her what it was like to be married to an insensitive person like me. She always answered the same thing. "You don't know him. You see a cool, logical guy. I see a warm-hearted person who is ready to do anything for his family. He gets angry like any man, just doesn't scream or scream like some people. Frank is silent and seems even more calm. If you don't know him, you'll never guess that he's angry. We have become an empty nest, and I like it." Barb's libido seems to have increased, and we've become more adventurous. Even after all this time, my heart does a somersault when I look at her. I've always been proud to be seen with her, but when she started taking more care of her appearance, I was doubly excited. That's why I didn't notice right away. I thought I was just getting horny and wanting her more and more. But the smell in our bedroom that Thursday night made me think, and I realized that it wasn't that I was flirting more often, but that Barb was pushing me away more often. Barb has never had a special sense of smell, while mine has always been sharp. She didn't notice anything, but I caught everything. I loved some smells, like Barb's smell when I went to bed next to her. He hated other smells. Most of all, I hated the smell of cigarette smoke. I hated the way it ate into clothes and hair and settled there. It was enough to spend an evening in the company of a smoker, and for several days I could smell the smell on my clothes. That's why the smell here in my own bedroom made me uneasy. I asked Barb about it, but she didn't feel anything. She said I was dreaming. Maybe I would have believed her if I hadn't smelled that smell again next Tuesday. I called Barb into the bedroom and asked her about it, but she again denied that there was any smell. On Thursday, the room smelled of air freshener. This aroused my serious suspicions. I went to the window and sniffed at the curtains. It was cigarette smoke again. This has become serious. Someone was smoking in my bedroom and Barb was trying to hide it. There was only one conclusion. It took me 2 weeks to put one thing together, so 2 weeks later, on Tuesday night, there was a confrontation. We both sat down to dinner, and Barb had just started munching on a delicious piece of chicken when I asked her, "Who is he, Barb?" A sharp intake of breath made her suck the chicken down her throat and violently choke. I thought I'd have to try the Heimlich maneuver. She came to her senses, and I brought her a glass of water. "Who is this who?" "What is it?" she asked, trying to bluff. "The man you let smoke in our bedroom. Who is he?" "I have no idea what you're talking about. What are you accusing me of?" "It's very simple, Barb. I'm accusing you of inviting a man into our bedroom and letting him smoke. I know it's true. I can smell him. You're crazy." He was so quiet, calm-looking, and suddenly he went berserk. "You need to check your nose. There is no smoking man here." I stopped eating and got up. Looking down at her, I pointed to my plate. "By the way, it's actually a fantastic chicken." I walked down the hall to our bedroom, picked up a small round object, and returned to the table. I went to the corner of the living room, which I used as an office, and returned with a laptop. I sat down and started eating again. "Really excellent, Barb. You should try a little more. What you've eaten won't be enough for a fly. I've lost my appetite. Why did you bring all this?" After chewing another portion of chicken, I wiped my mouth with a napkin and picked up a round object. "This, my dear, is a Wi-Fi webcam. Do you see the little antenna at the back? I left it in our bedroom today. I went to my laptop. This, as you know, is my laptop, and I suppose you know that it supports Wi-Fi. It can connect to the webcam wirelessly. Today, a program was launched on it that includes recording from the camera at any movement. I wonder what she wrote down this afternoon. Maybe like a man smoking in our bedroom. Maybe even sitting on our bed. Maybe my dear wife is lying next to him. Let's take a look." Barb reached out and closed her laptop. "No, I don't want to look at it. Don't want. It's all true. Here, I said it. Do you feel happy? Happy. Do you think I should be happy to know that my wife entertained another man in my bedroom and lay there while he smoked in our bed? No, I'm not happy. Now I'm going to ask you one more time. Who is he? I can't. I can't tell you. You're going to want to hurt him, and if you do, you're going to jail. I can't stand it. I love you. Barb, I promise I won't hurt him." "So who is he? Do you promise? Do you really promise that you won't hurt him?" "Barb, I gave you my word. I won't touch him. Have I ever broken a promise?" She stopped for a moment and thought about it. "No, I didn't break it." "Okay, it's all right now. I repeat, who is he?" Her head was down and she was looking at her feet. "His name is Richard Bryant. He is a college student." "I see, and you, as the head of the student service, were just doing your job, serving students." "It's inappropriate and beneath your dignity, Frank." "Okay, now all the cards are open. What are you going to do? Do you want to get a divorce to marry him?" "No, I don't love him. I love you. Don't leave me, Frank, please. Please don't leave me." "And then what? Will you give it up?" "I'm not sure I can." "I would like to say yes, but I will not make promises that I will not be able to fulfill. Can't we just let things take their course? I know it's just a hobby, and I know he's going to get tired of me. For God's sake, he's only 20. Soon he will want young girls, and it will all be over." "And if I don't agree?" "Then I'll try to give it up, Frank. I really will. But the craving for it is so strong. When he's with me, I feel so alive. I'm not sure I can do it, Frank. Don't I make you feel alive?" "It's different with you, Frank. Being with you makes me feel loved. I'm so proud to be with you, but it's not the same. Please, Frank, please tell me you're going to try. I really don't want to lose you. Can you try, Frank, please?" "I don't know. I'll think about it and tell you tomorrow." I got up and started clearing the dishes. "Are you serious, Frank? Are you really serious?" "Will you think about it? I just said that, didn't I? Now I'd better start moving my stuff to the spare room." "No, Frank, I don't want that. I really don't want to. Please don't move out." "I have to, Barb. I know what young people are like. He's going to spread the seed all over the place, and I certainly don't want to catch anything. I'll let you know tomorrow." I left Barb crying at the table and spent the rest of the evening carrying all my things out of the master bedroom. The next night, Barb made beef stroganoff, which is my favorite dish, especially the way Barb cooked it. Again, she barely touched her dish, just moved the food around the plate. When I finished eating, she sat and stared at me until curiosity got the better of her. "Well, have you decided yet?" "Yes, Barb, I have decided." "Well, don't keep me in suspense. What have you decided?" "It's all over. It's going to end right here, right now. From now on, you won't have anything to do with him anymore. If he shows up at your office, you'll send someone else to deal with him. Is that clear, Barb? It's over. And you will stay with me, Frank. Will everything be the same as before?" "Maybe, I don't know. This has never happened to me before, but yes, maybe I'll get over it in time." Thanks, Frank. I'll try, I really will. You're going to do more than try, Barb. If you want us to stay together, you can do it. God knows I love you more than anything in the world, but I won't let you humiliate me. Will you move back into our bedroom? Not yet. If I end up in the same bed with you, I won't be able to keep my hands off you. I think we both need to get checked for sexually transmitted diseases first. I'll make an appointment in the morning. I don't think there's anything to worry about. I'm sure he's clean. Nevertheless, we'll both check it out. Like I said, I know young people. I was one of them once. If he's using you, he's probably poking at someone else. Frank, do you have to be so rude? Just telling it like it is, Barb. And after that, when we're both sure everything's okay, I'll think about moving in with you. Everything went well for the next month. Barb seemed to be more like her old self. She did her best to lure me back to the bedroom. She changed clothes when she came home, so by the time I arrived, she was wearing short skirts or very tight jeans with a very thin blouse, usually without a bra. In the evening, she would sit on the sofa next to me, hug my hand, pressing it to her soft chest. At the end of the evening, she looked at me and said, "Well, I'm going to bed. Do you want to join me?" I even started to weaken. I was determined to wait out the entire 3-month incubation period of HIV. But after only a month, I was no longer sure that I could continue in the same spirit. I loved her as if there would be no tomorrow. I wanted her all the time. I am not a religious person, but I prayed that she would stay away from him. Then my nose did it to me again. She was standing at the sink, draining the water from the vegetables. She was wearing jeans, which she must have stuffed a lot of money into, and a thin white t-shirt. Even from behind, I could see that she was without a bra. At that moment, I lost control of myself. I came up behind her, put my hands under her arms, and started squeezing her breasts. She put down the pot, raised her hands to cover mine, and clung to me tightly. That looks like my handsome husband," she said. She leaned against me again. When she did, my nose was in her hair. That's the smell. Cigarette smoke, still the same cheap brand, if I'm not mistaken. I stepped back. She was a little discouraged when I pulled away from her. What? What happened? I don't have to do this? What do you mean you shouldn't do that? You're my husband, damn it. If you don't have to do this, then who the hell should? I'm sorry, I lost control for a minute. And okay, I've been trying to make you lose control for the last month. I want you to lose control. I want my husband back. You really want me back? Is that really what you want? She looked into my eyes, looking for something that could tell her what was going on. Yes, that's what I want. I've been telling you this for the last month. Are you sure? Are you sure you want me and not your young lover? No, of course not. I did what you said. I don't see him anymore. She was good, but not good enough. When she lies, she always takes off her wedding ring, and I've seen her do just that. There was also a tremor in her voice. I need to think about it. I'll be gone for a while. Can't it wait until after dinner? I'm almost ready to serve it. Just put it on a plate and cover it with a lid. I'll warm it up when I get back. I went to the lake and sat there watching the windsurfers taking advantage of the evening sun. I stayed there until sunset and then drove back home. Barb met me at the door, took my hand and put her head on my shoulder. Have you thought it over? I nodded. I wish sometimes you'd let me know what's going on in your head. No, Barb, I don't think you want to know. I ate alone while Barb watched what was happening. After dinner, I went to bed, leaving Barb to watch TV. The next day, I was sitting outside the lawyer's office and waiting for them to return from lunch. The lawyer's office was right across the street from our local college. I was sitting there in my van watching students come and go when I noticed a group of 6 students walking in my direction. More precisely, 5 students and Barbara. They were all laughing and joking as they crossed the road and entered the pub on the corner. I must admit, I didn't recognize her right away. She looked like one of them. I sat in the van and watched the door of the pub, not noticing the lawyers and their secretaries returning to work. The sky was overcast, and a fine rain began to drizzle. I had been there for maybe 45 minutes when I saw her come out. She was alone and decided to run back to work so as not to get wet. I crossed the road and entered the bar, seeing how they were all grouped around a table by the window. I bought myself a pint of the good old and sat down at the table next to them. The girls all got up and went to the toilet together. I was sitting and eavesdropping on the conversation. Are you serious, Richie? Do you want anything at all? Will she make love? I told you, Boz, anything. I'll have to start watching adult movies to get new ideas. And what are you going to do with her? I mean, she's a little old, isn't she? She can more than support me. Tell you what, Rich, you can give it to me when you're done. Well, then take it, Jonesy. So you're going to leave her? Maybe it depends on whether I can get into Stephanie's panties. I'll give you 20 pounds for it. You can't even spend the night on 20 pounds, Jonesy. Hey, here's an idea. I can rent it out. They all laughed when the girls returned. What are we laughing at? One of the girls asked. Richie is thinking about renting out his MILF, replied the one whose name was Jonesy. Don't be so cruel, the other girl said. I think Babs is beautiful. I wish my mom was like her. I felt anger and great sadness. How could this asshole, for whom she had risked so much, treat her so disrespectfully? I wanted to sink my teeth into his throat. I wanted to castrate him with a beer glass, but I was held back by the promise I made to Barb. I won't touch him, I said. How could I be so stupid? Throughout the conversation, Richie watched the rain outside. Now I noticed how he reached into his pocket and took out cigarettes. When he took out a lighter, Jonesy turned to him. You can't smoke here, buddy. It's against the law. Well, I'm not going outside. It's raining. I need a cigarette, and if people don't like it, fuck them. I took my beer and moved to the bar. Despite all my efforts, there was moisture in my eyes. I wiped one off when the owner of the place came up. Are you okay, buddy? What? Oh, yes, I'm fine. Just cigarette smoke. He always makes my eyes sting. The owner looked around the bar. Richie tried to hide the cigarette in his clenched hand, but the rising smoke gave him away. Okay, you're all leaving. Richie quickly stubbed out his cigarette and showed it to the owner. Okay, don't panic, okay? Don't ruffle your hair, that's good, Richie, Jonesy said, looking at the landlord's bald head. I didn't tell you to take it away. I told you to get out. Now you have 10 seconds before I let the dogs down. He started counting down from 10. Okay, we're leaving. I've never liked this fucking pub anyway. In that case, you won't want to come back here, which is good, because you are all forbidden to do so. Now get out of my pub. As they were leaving, Richie was giving the pub owner the finger, and one of the girls moaned, It's all your fault, Richie. Where are we going now? They reached the door, looked at the rain, and ran back in the direction of the college. I'm sorry, sir, but now can I top up your pint? No, thanks. I should be the one apologizing. I didn't want you to lose customers like that. I can do without such clients. They come here with an elderly woman. I think this brute is probably using her. Anyway, they're all sitting on her neck, and when she leaves, they make sure their drinks last the rest of the day. I feel sorry for her. She seems nice. Pretty, isn't she? Well, I'll say this. I wouldn't climb on it to get to you, if you get my point. So, what makes you feel sorry for her? Well, I don't have qualifications or anything like that, but you see life in this job. In my opinion, she is desperately trying to regain her youth. She seems nice and she's married, so some poor guy will cry drowning his longing in beer because of it. But she comes and sits with these guys, laughing and giggling like she's one of them. You probably heard them talking about her when she leaves. For them, it's just light meat. It will all end in tears, and only she will suffer. It's not that I don't believe you, but why are you so sure? As I said, this is my job. You see everything, and I've seen it all before. If she is lucky, when this little shorty is done with her, it will be a wake-up call, and she will try to establish a relationship with her husband. It is more likely that she will be so carried away by the feeling that she has become young again, that she will look for another teenager. Over time, she will go to bars and offer herself to any young man who seems at least a little interesting to her. It's really pathetic. You sound just like an experienced person. He leaned forward so that his mouth was close to my ear. Why do you think there is no wife here? When he pulled away, I saw sadness in his eyes. He looked like a decent guy, and it hurt him just to talk about it. He looked down at my glass. Now, sir, will you have another one? No thanks, my lunch break is over. I'd better get back to work. Thanks for the conversation. The owner of the place certainly gave me something to think about. Will I be able to live with this situation? Is Barb on the hook? She's already lied to me, so maybe that's how it is. Barb was sitting on my lap that night. She was writhing on top of me. How is Mark these days? I hesitated for a moment before she answered. I don't know for sure, Frank. I haven't spoken to him in, probably 4 weeks. She was good. If I hadn't seen it all for myself, I might have believed her. So you have 8 more weeks left, and then maybe we can get back to normal. Do we really have to wait, Frank? I'm sure we'll be fine. If you're really worried, you can always... Don't even think about it, Barb, I interrupted her. I'm not going to take precautions just because he didn't. I pushed her off my lap and stood up. I went to my room and lay down on the bed, thinking. I realized that she would never be honest with me. She needs me. She needs my stability, like a rebellious child needs stable parents. And then I realized that I couldn't be that stable. I can't look at her degradation, as my friend described it in the pub. I have to break up. I spent the next 2 weeks preparing for the move. I found a place to live, took time off, and arranged to borrow a company van. I realized that for her secret meetings, Barb used the room that used to be ours. I decided to leave on Thursday, after a little confrontation with my lovers. I took the van and parked it in the garage. The morning passed unnoticed, and I only managed to pack my things and make preparations. The coffee pot was on the gas stove, waiting. A little after 2 o'clock in the afternoon, Barbara's car pulled up to the house. I watched them walk up to the front door. She said he was 20. He looked more like 16. I opened the front door. Barbara's mouth dropped open. I looked at little Richard. I could tell by the way he came to the door that he was shitting himself. Barbara almost had to drag him through the door. "What are you doing here, Frank?" I could ask you the same thing. I thought it was over. At least she had the grace to blush at the same time. "I'm sorry, Frank, I really tried, but I just couldn't help myself. In the end, I had to talk to him. And then you guess? I'm sorry, Frank, I'm really sorry, but we can get through this, I know we can. Go back to work. We can talk about it tonight. I want to talk to him. With your lover, that is. Frank, do you really think that's wise?" "Well, that is, it will only confuse you. Barb, if a man is going to go to my house, smoke in my bedroom, make love to my wife, the least he can do is sit down and talk to me." "Does that mean what I think it means, Frank? Do you really mind? Really? No one said anything about me not being against it, but you know that I don't want to see you unhappy, so I'll have to put up with it. I just wanted to meet him." "And you really promise not to hurt him?" "I've already told you that I won't touch him." She came up to him, took his hand, and pulled him towards me. "Frank, this is Richard. Richard, this is Frank. Hi, Mark, come in, have a seat, have a cup of coffee. My name is Richard, sir, and I'm glad to meet you." He held out his hand for me to shake. "Well, I'm sorry, Mark, but I can't shake your hand. I promised Barbu that I wouldn't hurt you, and I always keep my promises." I saw him fumbling in his pocket. He pulled out a pack of cigarettes, took out one and put it in his mouth. He took out a lighter and was about to light it. "Don't be a jerk, Richard. These things will kill you, and if you light up in front of me, I may have to do the work for them. Now it's customary to ask before smoking in a man's house, and I don't want to end up smelling like an ashtray. I'm sorry, sir, I thought it was all right. I mean, Babs said you didn't mind. So Babs was wrong. What happens in this bedroom between you depends on her, but forcing me to passively breathe your poisonous smoke is not part of the deal. Is everything clear?" "Yes, sir, quite." He put the cigarette away with trembling hands. "As I understand it, you like cigarettes after intercourse. I don't understand why you smoke these things. Don't you know the risks?" "Oh, yes, I know, sir. But they say that if I quit for 10 years, the risk will decrease to 0. I believe that if I quit at 30, then by the time I'm your age, I'll be clean. That's assuming you live that long, Mark. Now drink your coffee." "What's going to happen now, Mark? Will you be able to support her as well as she used to? You're planning to marry her, aren't you?" I thought he was going to pour coffee over me, so shocked was he by what I offered. Seeing his predicament, Barb intervened. "You know perfectly well we haven't even discussed this. I am your wife and always will be." "I see. So he's just a lover on the side, huh, Barb? Stop it, Frank. Either get back to work or we're leaving. We'll talk about it tonight." I turned back to the young man sitting at the table. "Well, Mark, I see Barb is starting to worry." Barb began to fidget, shift from one foot to the other and stretch her arms. It reminded me of the days when my daughter was waiting for first dates. Maybe she's afraid of losing you, or maybe she's worried that she'll lose her place in your little group. For the first time, I saw a hint of recognition in his eyes, as if I had just confirmed that we had met before, but he couldn't remember where. "Nevertheless, it seems I'd better get back to work and leave you lovebirds alone." "I must say, sir, you take it very well. I don't think I could have done the same. It's called love, son. I always swore that I would make Barb happy for the rest of her life, and that's exactly what I intend to do." Barb came over and put her arms around my neck. "I really love you, you know." I didn't say anything. Barb started tugging on young Mark's arm. He started to get up. Are we done yet, sir? Of course, I said. Go and have fun. He stopped when Barb dragged him away. Sir, may I light a cigarette? If Barb doesn't mind, then go ahead. The master bedroom was separated from the kitchen by a partition the thickness of one cinder block. I could hear them giggling while undressing each other. I walked around, gathered up the last of my things, took them to the van and put them with the others, then returned to the house. I poured coffee over the flame on the gas stove and left. An hour later, all my things were in the new apartment, and I went grocery shopping. When I unpacked and put everything in its place, it was almost 6 o'clock. I turned on the TV just in time for the headlines. A house in Kings North was destroyed in a massive explosion on Points West tonight, the announcer said. It caught my attention. I watched the national news and waited for regional reports. The regional headlines were read, and then I saw this, a street very similar to the one where I lived before. As the camera moved down the street, I saw 2 houses very similar to the houses of my neighbors, and between them, a pile of rubble on the site of my small bungalow. Thank God there's insurance, I thought. A reporter stood in front of the camera and told her story. Today, at about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, the entire Kings North district was shaken by a powerful explosion, which shattered windows in houses throughout the district. The owners of the house, Mr. and Mrs. Bigelow, are believed to have been in bed at the time. Both were pronounced dead at the scene. A fire officer entered the frame, and the reporter jumped at the opportunity to do an interview. So, Officer Reynolds, do we know what caused such a massive explosion? Is it related to terrorism? We didn't find any signs of explosives. Everything indicates that it was an explosive accumulation of gas. I'm afraid people don't treat him with the respect he deserves. Leave the gas tap open for a while and all you need is a source of ignition. Something as simple as turning on a light. Or lighting a cigarette, I thought. Can you tell me how the tenants died? We'll have to wait for an autopsy to do that, but it looks like it's because of the explosion. The reporter finished her piece on camera and I turned off the TV. I took out my laptop and turned it on. Barb's face looked at me and for the first time in years, I dissolved into tears. I stroked her face on the screen. I'm sorry, Barb, I couldn't let him do this to you. I couldn't watch this happen to you. I'm sorry, Barb, I love you. And I will always love you. Please forgive me. I sat there for a little over 2 hours. The computer has already gone into sleep mode. I turned it on again, launched the browser, and found the phone of the TV channel's newsroom. Then I dialed the number. It took some time to talk to minor people before getting through to those who could make a decision. Hello, I said. You've just done a report from what's left of my house. Yes, the one on Exeter Road. My name is Frank Bigelow, and you just told everyone that I'm dead. But I must tell you that I am very much alive. I paused. And I don't smoke.